And welcome back to GBS Morning Extra. If you're just joining us, we are coming to you live from our studios here in Nairobi. And as I mentioned earlier, today we're going to discuss matters education. And we all know that the coming of the COVID-19 pandemic did indeed a big blow to the country, and not just Kenya, but the whole world. And today, our topic of discussion, we are actually going to focus on the candidates. When I talk about candidates, I mean the KCSE and KCPE candidates. There have been a lot of talks on whether or not they will be able to carry out their do their exams. Well, earlier this month, we had the Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education Teachers, KUPPET, which wanted that this year's national exams be postponed due to the coronavirus outbreak. The KUPPET Secretary General, Akelu Misori, said in a statement that the current environment is not conducive to the Kenya Certificate of Secondary and also for the KCPE, that's the Kenya Certificate of Primary Education, schedule for November. Last month, President Uhuru Kenyatta ordered all schools closed for 30 days to check the spread of the coronavirus. The examination papers are printed in the United Kingdom, and the lockdown will disrupt the practicals and make it even more difficult to covering the syllabus as scheduled. It will also be difficult for NEC officials to travel to the UK to revise and have the exam papers for the exams, whose practicals are scheduled to begin in September of this year. Data from NEC indicates that by the deadline for registration on February 28th, a total of 1,938,667 candidates had registered. Now, these are some of the images that you've actually been seeing on the headlines of newspapers and other media outlets. But then yesterday, a quite different scenario where the CS for Education came in and disputed this. But then before we get to that, I'd like to introduce to you my guests this morning who are going to help me discuss this. Earlier in his speech, we had the CS for Education, Professor George Magoha, mention that the country is on track, and he said that there's nothing like postponement of exams. He also mentioned that online education is going on, and to the fullest of his knowledge, and the government is doing all that it can to make this a success. To help me discuss this further this morning, I'm joined by two gentlemen. I first start with Bwana Gideon Wafula. Gideon Wafula is an informatics and computer science student at the Strathmore University. Gideon, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Timothy.
How are you doing?
And I'm doing well. Thank you. Thank you for giving me this chance to explicate matters, technology, and online study.
Karibu
Thank
sana.
you.
Karibu, karibu. We'll be talking about that much more. And also we are joined by educationist Otoa Sifuna. Otoa Sifuna, welcome.
Thank you, Timothy, for having me this particular morning. Yes. I'm also quite delighted to delve deeper into matters education. We look at, we dissect the merits and demerits of online learning from a teacher, student perspective. And we dissect this and look at how practical is it. The education CS yesterday said the process is going quite pretty well, but today we look at the challenges and the success story that characterizes this platform.
Definitely, Otoa Sifuna will be getting onto that a bit later. Now, gentlemen, you'll allow me, I want you to listen to this soundbite. Yesterday, as you mentioned, Bwana Otoa Sifuna, the CS for Education comes out and disputes, fear-mongering on what he called, I mean, those are his own words, fear-mongering, saying that the exams will be held this year and that the government has not spoken about postponement of the KCPE and KCSE exams. Let's listen in to these remarks by the Education CS before we begin.
That up to this moment, nobody has thought of postponing the examinations, the national examinations, both the primary school exams and the secondary school exams. And to the best of the government's ability, the children are getting online learning, as I stated last week. I am aware that the parents are very, very apprehensive, but they should be fair to themselves, because government has not pronounced itself that the exam will be postponed. And after His Excellency the President concurs with what the Ministry of Education has methodically gone through, I hope that during the course of next week, we shall tell you the various scenarios that we have come up with, and not all of them involve a doomsday situation. And since we are very optimistic, I still refuse to be guided by the fearmongers.
Well, that's Professor George Magoha there, tough indeed in his wordings, and he said that he will not be cowed by the remarks of fearmongers. Otoa Sifuna, are these just fearmongers, or are we likely to see the government even in its in what we expect? I mean, we're expecting the government to come later and talk to us about this. Do you expect anything different from a postponement of exams, Mr. Otoa?
Yeah, thank you once again, Mr. Timothy. I listened to the CS sentiments yesterday when he was addressing the nation. And he rightfully put it that, yes, the online teaching and learning is going on. Mm-hmm. However, as a teacher, I have some reservations here and there to make. That one, you cannot say that, Timothy, yes, 100% learning is going on. And from that particular perspective, you realize that there are some families in this great republic of ours where even affording basic things such as food is a major obstacle or hurdle for the family. And therefore, for the CS to come out very, very authoritatively to tell the nation that online teaching and learning is going on, I think the good professor needs to evaluate. Actually, instead of saying that the process is going on smoothly, he would have formed a task force to my own thinking so that he gets the real picture of how many students, and especially candidates, because Timothy, in this case, we are looking at the Standard 8 and Form 4 candidates who are yet to sit for their end of the exams or national exams at the end of this year. Once he gets the statistics and says that a certain number of students are on online platform, because again, we cannot dispute the fact that we have those students who are actually benefiting a lot from this particular technology that has been availed to us. But we cannot pretend and run away from the hard reality that some families, some students are not able to access these gadgets, that, or leave alone even the gadgets, the internet provision that can allow them then to also be part and parcel of the learning process. So the good professor must be cognizant of the fact that we have a sizable chunk of students who have not been on this learning platform. And therefore, if we say that the exams must proceed as the timetable, the academic calendar envisaged, then we will actually be lying to ourselves.
Bwana Otoa Sifuna, I would like us to go more into the online learning, and that's why we had brought in Bwana Gideon on board. But then before we get into that, I would like us to look at this matter from a teacher's perspective. You know, here, I mean, it's quite clear what you're saying. You're totally disagreeing with the good professor that indeed the country or the students or the candidates are not ready for the KCPE, KCSE exams. But I would like you as a teacher and also as an educationist, someone who actually understands how the process or the whole thing works. Maybe you can just paint for our viewers a little bit of a picture. What's the process?
Yes.
I mean, I mentioned earlier that, you know, you know, the exams are already printed in the UK, but then the movement in terms of restrictions for movement, they cannot, we need people to go to the UK, examine the papers and see whether they are ready and so on and so forth. Can you just explain to us a little bit about what this process entails and ideally how long it would take for it to actually be a success?
Yeah, you are very right. And from even addressing the very basics, you have said it quite correctly, that part of the exam process, exam is not a one show or a one eventuality thing. It's a whole process from compiling the tests, running what we call all the domains of the exams. And part of a very important ritual in the exam setting and administration involves a team of technocrats from the Kenya National Examination Council traveling all the way, because our papers are not set locally, Timothy.
Yes.
They are set in the United Kingdom. The team of these experts need to travel all the way to the UK to actually see the moderation, see the quality, is it fit for purpose, and then give a report. The second reservation that I have, part of our exams, because we don't just set theoretical papers, Timothy.
Yes.
We have a very good percentage of practical papers. I'm talking about papers such as agriculture. I'm talking about home science. I'm talking about French, the orals. I'm talking about music. There is a large component of the practical exams, or what we call project-based evaluation, which, as we speak now, Timothy, that process should have gone almost to its tail end. It has not happened as we speak now. So again, you realize that our examinations, administration, and the quality of doing it is actually put in total disarray. Look at the psychological preparedness of the students now. And I challenge you, Timothy, out of 10 students, candidates, students you can meet, just do your quick sampling. You realize that 7 out of those 10 will give you an outright no answer to the fact that they are not ready to sit for these exams. So I, as a teacher, I'm looking at, do we have any contingent measures? Do we need to go to the drawing board and see if we can actually reschedule these exams? Yes, there is another fear of what we call transition, because at the end of it, we're also looking at our facilities in schools and all that. What happens if we have a whole cohort or a class that stagnates, and therefore it affects all other youth groups? That is also another challenge that we are looking at. But Timothy, as you rightly questioned, how practical is this online learning platform? First of all, I would say, as a teacher, I can say that in English we say that the only permanent thing is change. Change in itself is the only permanent thing. And whoever does not embrace change actually becomes like the proverbial short-necked giraffe that got extinct when evolutionary changes took place. So yes, technology has come in as the savior. Those who have embraced technology, Timothy, are reaping high dividends out of it. As a teacher, within the comfort of my living room, I can administer a classroom. And yes, from this end, I have been able to interact with my students and even some who are not my students, because this COVID-19 has taught us one thing, that we need to be more magnanimous, we need to be more philanthropic. So right now, I cannot say...
I'm losing you there, Mr. Otoa Sifuna.
Yes?
Yeah, you're back now. Yeah, you can conclude on that as we bring in Bwana Gideon, whom I also would like to just help us to paint a picture as a student, how he's faring right now and how is the online studies going.
Yes, absolutely. As we shall discuss this more and more, you realize that this platform has its own merits and demerits.
Sure. Bwana Gideon, I would like to bring you in at this juncture. Gideon, as I mentioned earlier, Gideon Ofula is an informatics and computer science student at the Strathmore University. Gideon, good morning once again.
Good morning, and I'm very grateful once more. Now, Mr. Timothy,
yes.
as I surface the issue of online study, I would like to pick the nitty-gritties of this whole matter, whereby, you know, what the minister is seeing is, from the minister's sentiments, we cannot pick what is really happening on the ground.
Yes.
For instance, let's look at I concur with Mr. Otoa Sifuna when he says that the resources are not enough and not everyone can access the resources.
Sure.
You look at some people have different laptops. Let's say you want to do online study through Zoom, have laptops that are outdated, Windows 7. It takes so long to load.
Yeah.
So someone has to, it's a tedious process for the person. You have some people have unstable Wi-Fi in their homes. So I looked recently and I saw Safaricom is doing a great job, a quite philanthropic approach whereby they are sending 100 MBs. But could you please tell me how 100 MBs can sustain you? That on 4G can only load around 2 pages. It's not quite realistic at all. We also look at it in a perspective of the students, whereby not everyone is really tech savvy. Sure. Not everyone is tech savvy.
Yes.
There are those people who struggle with this internet. There are those people who need someone next to them to help them. They want that guidance. You know, now when someone tries to, that's when recently when you were attending the online study, you look at it at the point when somebody is quarreling with their parents, and they're saying, "Oh, mom, have you washed dishes?" And all that stuff. They don't understand that when such things go on, you need to mute your audio speaker. So you get that there's that challenge of accessing and manipulating confidently the whole platform. Even if someone is learned, a university student is very much learned, and we still have such cases occurring. I was also at home some weeks back, and I was with my brother. He's in class 6. And you look at the point when we were in the farm, and he's trying to connect the radio so that he can listen to the ongoing study on the radio.
Yes.
And he's in the farm because he's supposed to be in the farm.
Yes.
Some parents, what I mean is some parents will not really understand that a student has to leave the farm activities and go study. Some parents understand that study should only take place in schools. And we cannot juxtapose our country, Kenya, with countries like the US. The US, actually, by the time they were sending people home, my friends from Harvard University told me that they have already shifted. They sent me a message, we have shifted our classes to online study. By the time they were transiting into they were transiting into their homes and cutting down the university studies.
Yes. And
that tells us that we are not yet there. I was to start my classes on 26th of March. I started them last week. Why? This university had to set up some equipment. It had to make sure it's ready. And you can tell me, Bwana Timothy,
yes,
how many universities are doing this in Kenya?
Yes.
For your information. So far, it's Nairobi, it's my university, which is Strathmore University. I heard the University of Nairobi was to start today on Monday.
Yes.
And that tells us how we are not ready. If a university cannot be ready to provide this kind of resources, cannot be ready to provide the studies, it tells us that it gives us a clear picture, a blueprint of what a common mwananchi is going through. Now,
so Bwana Gideon, if I may interject,
yes.
What you're saying is that even you at the university, you're facing this challenge, and that what you're saying is that the country is not ready, the online learning is not really working as for now.
Yes, actually, that's my main point is that the online learning, it is working for those people who have access to it. But what percentage is it? We know what percentage our poverty level is in our country.
Yes.
So the percentage that can access, how many people can access television? I know I'm very cognizant of the fact that there are some television programs that are running to educate people. But how many people can access this television?
Well, I'd like to bring in Mr. Otoa Sifuna at this juncture and maybe just get him to paint a picture for us. Mr. Otoa Sifuna, as a teacher, you know,
Yes.
As a teacher, how are you encountering this? Would you say confidently that students out there, and especially in public schools, have access to this kind of platform where they are able to get proper education, as the minister is alluding?
Yeah, Timothy, thank you for that question. It is a 50-50 kind of scenario. And so rightly put, when you edge towards the public sector, and you can realize that the Kenyan government actually gave a leeway to ensure that we have free primary education and subsidized secondary education. And therefore, quite a number of the population of our students emanate from very peasantry kind of lifestyle. And the situation has been exacerbated by the coronavirus. I'm telling you, Timothy, people are not seeing how the impact of this coronavirus, it has actually hit below the belt. Most families are struggling. And therefore to say that a number of public schools students are on the platform and they are enjoying. Yes, Mr. Gideon rightfully puts it. And I want to congratulate the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development at this particular juncture that they have done something good to introduce what we call radio lessons. When you look at all these media, Timothy, you realize that radio can percolate. The percentage of radio all over the country is to a sizable percentage. But television and online content or the internet, that is a luxury.
Okay.
Timothy, I'm telling you, television and internet connectivity to most families in this country is a luxury.
It's not as,
and therefore,
it's not as much as radio access.
Sorry?
It's not as much as radio access, because why I'm putting the question is because, Mr. Sifuna, the government has said that this thing is working. Now we've seen the radio lessons began earlier, but then they were somehow at some point they were not really working. But then later they came in, especially at this time during the COVID-19, and we can see advertisements everywhere. The government talking about this. Are we looking at an ad hoc solution here? Is it really planned well to, reach everybody as, is expected, or is it just an ad hoc solution that the government decided to take at this juncture?
Basically, it has also its own challenges. You realize that even the timetable. I was with a friend of mine who is a deputy director at the same institution, Mr. Andika, and I challenged him. Why can't you guys produce and share endlessly the timetables for these lessons?
Yes.
Yeah. So you realize that most students are not even accessible. They don't know that biology lesson will start at that particular timing. So most of them are just operating in what we call guesswork. But to look at even the online content, Mr. Timothy, my question will be, who is vetting this online content?
Sure.
Because I, as a teacher, before I go to administer that lesson to a classroom, I'll make sure that I have prepared myself the content to take note of the following factors. One, we have what we call differentiation in matters pedagogy.
Yes.
All the students that you are teaching are not absorbing that knowledge on the same platform, on the same level. We have those that we call the A-grade students. We have the B-grade students.
Yes.
But we cannot also deny the fact that we have slow learners who are the D and E-grade students.
All right.
Are these online lessons, these TV lessons, television lessons, this internet online content, are they taking into consideration that we have these components of students within our learning environment?
Sure.
And then number two, who is actually vetting them, the content? Right now, some students have been left to their own devices. They are absorbing each and every aspect of it. And therefore, it's my challenge even to the Kenya National Examination Council that finally, when they sit down to say that this is the kind of paper, the kind of exam that we want to use to evaluate our students, it's going to be a tedious task, Timothy, to know how much has been covered by the students in terms of the syllabus coverage. Because right now, we have so many teachers, some of whom are anointed, for lack of a better word, and they don't have that knowledge to know what should go into the mind of that particular student. And therefore, it's also a caution to the parents who are listening to me, that kindly, before you allow that click and paste button for your students to learn online, also try to get into touch with an educational expert to say that this content, yes, it's applicable
and is
to this
applicable.
particular year group.
I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you there, Mr. Otoa Sifuna. I'll have to cut you short. I want to bring in Bwana Gideon before we take another quick break. Bwana Gideon, you spoke about the demerits of the online learning, but then there are some, good things that are working. Like you said, you just began your classes, and right now you're actually able to run your classes. Maybe you can just share with us your experience, the good part of this online learning, and how it's actually helping you to catch up and to continue with your studies.
All right. Thank you, Bwana Timothy. And kindly note that we are in this because we are coerced by the circumstances. We are the circumstances of the prevailing pandemic. And yes, that tells us that I'm better than that person who is not studying. I can access the content. I can get the content that I require for my studies. I can call the lecturer to communicate with him, maybe to seek some clarification. There's also that continuous chat room where you can always chat with the person and they can always reply. So it's at least better than when you don't have anything. So those are some of the advantages. There are those people who are still just at home. They were supposed to study, but no one cares. They don't have this chance to explore. So at least when a university tries to do this, at least I get to study. I'm not lagging behind. I'm within my schedule. I'm almost like only 1 week behind my schedule.
All right. That actually gives you an edge in terms of accessing your studies and everything. Viewer, indeed, today we are being joined by Gideon Wafula, who is an informatics student, informatics and computer science student at the Strathmore University, and also we are joined by Otoa Sifuna, who is an educationist. And we are discussing, the fate of the candidates. I'm talking about the KCSE and KCPE candidates in the country here in Kenya. And, the education system has been messed up like any other sector. And this has actually brought in a big challenge. It's a challenge that many people will agree with me that has taken a toll, not just on other sectors, but also on the education sector. We take a short break right now, but then when we come back, we'll be discussing the way forward on how to go about these online studies and also the challenges that students are facing out there. We take a short break. We'll be right back. And welcome back to GBS Morning Extra. If you're just joining us, you can join the conversation as well. Our hashtag is GBS Morning Extra. Our Twitter handle is @KenyaGBS. You can send us an SMS on 21144. 21144 is the number. And this morning we are joined by two gentlemen, Gideon Wafula, who is an informatics and computer science student at Strathmore University. And also we are joined by Otoa Sifuna, the one and only Otoa Sifuna, an educationist here in Nairobi. Bwana Otoa Sifuna, when we went for a break, we were talking about the merits of, online learning. I mean, we need to give credit where it is due sometimes, Mr. Otoa Sifuna. Is that right?
Perfectly speaking, and I want to thank you for your compliments. Very few people will admit to the fact that Otoa Sifuna is a big name in the education sector. So when you say the one and only, it actually gives me a lot of what we call internal satisfaction. You know, according to Abraham's Maslow of hierarchical needs, it's not the amount of money or material things that you have.
Sure.
It is what you are doing that you know very well that this is quite in order.
Definitely.
Yes, you are right, Timothy, when you say that we need to give credit where it is. But again, we are looking at, you know, it's like a double-edged sword.
Yes.
The online platform is playing a very good role, as Gideon, who is a student and is a great beneficiary of this online platform learning, is concerned. But I'm also looking at what is it, you know, as an educationist, Timothy, I will look at the factors that shape the educational process. Yes. I'm looking at equity. Yes. I'm looking at access. Yes. I'm looking at efficacy. Yes, it is a process. But at the same time, we cannot run away from one reality, that we are leaving a sizable chunk of students lagging behind. Not because of their own wants, but because of this technology that is applying what we call natural selection. These guys, out of their poverty and lack of means, they are not with us. Are we together?
Yes.
But Timothy, I want to tell you that for sure, I have seen, as a teacher myself, I have seen a lot of possibility in embracing technology. I think it is high time as a country we actually, and I want to congratulate again the KICD for putting in their competence-based curriculum. One of the tenets of CBC is digital literacy. We will be a generation that will actually perish if we cannot embrace digital literacy amongst, even from the very basic early year groups, so that as we grow in terms of technology, in terms of industrial revolution, we make sure that we are making use of this.
Yes.
But what are the learning platforms? Personally, I have utilized a lot in terms of Google Classroom, Timothy.
Yes.
I have a Google Class that we actually share a lot with my students.
All right.
We have formed a WhatsApp group with my class.
All right.
And they are on tours. However, you realize that those students that are actually active and they wake up, they have their personal timetable. If you tell them that tomorrow at this particular timing, we have a lesson, they are there.
Yes.
You get that? But we cannot underestimate that we have some truant boys and girls who are actually also using this technology, because there is that, you cannot replace a physical teacher in the presence of a student. That one, even if it's a million years to come, Timothy, a physical teacher will never be replaced. That one, everybody must see that. So
I believe that's a point that Mr. Otoa Sifuna must drive across, because Mr. Otoa Sifuna himself is a teacher. So, I mean, taking that away from him would not take that lying down. But then I would like to bring in Gideon.
You see, Timothy, in as much as we embrace technology, for instance, if I ask you a question before Gideon comes in, can robots teach? Can robots teach? And to what extent can robots teach?
I mean,
so there are some students who are actually making fun of this online learning platform. You tell them to submit the assignment at close of business today. They have not submitted the assignment, and so they frustrate the whole teaching and learning experience. I
definitely agree with you there, Bwana Otoa Sifuna. But then in this age of intellectual, of AI, I mean, for a student who is studying informatics and computer science, Bwana Gideon, if I may bring you into this conversation, don't you think that also as a society, we have laxed in terms of embracing technology? And should we embrace technology, or could we have embraced technology to the extent we could not actually match the likes of the United States and maybe South Korea, but at least we would have had something tangible that when a crisis like this that has found us, when we were talking about the coronavirus pandemic, then, you know, students and also the institutions and the government would be found in a position where at least things would be moving, as opposed to what we are seeing right now, where things are literally not moving, Bwana Gideon?
Oh, all right, Bwana Timothy, thank you so much. Now, just as before I embark on your question, allow me to just answer Mr. Otoa's question in a statement whereby robots can only regurgitate what they are given. They can never teach. And now, as you say, it's incumbent on our government to help to ensure that we get these resources, we get this technology uplifted. And it starts with basic things. If you now go to Google and you just type Newton's law of motion, which is a form 3 topic,
yes,
whatever you will see there will be the IGCSE content. You will not see even the nitty-gritties, the small things, even the KCSE content. You won't see anything. If you go online and you type something like verbal and non-verbal cues, you won't see what Mr. Otoa will teach you in a class setup. They'll show you the IGCSE content. That tells us how bad we are. We are not embracing our content. We are not putting the material on the online platforms. And that's where we need to start before we even go on to Zoom and everything else.
Yes.
We need to start from that basic platform before we rise. And by that, I also like the CBC program, which has been which is being rolled out. And I think this should come in with embracing of technology at the same time.
Sure.
It should not just come in like the way things are right now. Sometimes I want to explore content on matters, maybe mathematics. But when I search algebra, I get algebra. I cannot get algebra that we learn in the KCSE content. I get algebra from the US curriculum and everywhere else. So what I'm saying is that's the basis that we should start on. That's where we should start as a government. And we build on that. By doing that, it will show that, or at least we have a move. But if we are not even doing that, it tells us that we shall be stagnant. We shall be stagnant for a long time.
Sure.
And as we also move into this online, as the government transit into this online study, we should also online maybe platforms. We should also be so cognizant to the fact that they also come with their challenges, such as insecurity.
Yes.
Recently in Singapore, just on this platform, the Zoom platform,
yes,
some students were just busy doing their studies with their teachers, and some people just jumped in with sending in lewd messages. They were updating so obscene images.
yes,
They just hacked it. So the government should look at it in a bigger picture. Let's start from basics. Let's build it, but let's also be cognizant of the fact that it comes with its problems, which is insecurity. And just before I conclude, it's not about really lack of the internet, but it's about our experts. We need enough expertise, and expertise comes from our institution. So for us to get a volunteer or someone setting up this system, we need to have a well-established school setup, whereby when a teacher goes to school, they at least they can use this technology.
Sure.
You know, if you've not used it in the university level, you've not maybe used a laptop in the university level, it will be hard for you to even create content and to put it online. And that's why I'm saying some courses like this online and the computer studies should even be compulsory for even most of us, so that we can embrace this as a nation. Let's put it compulsory from scratch. I like the president's idea where he was giving out laptops. So it should give people that room to explore the internet. Let people get engaged from a childhood level. When you go to Japan right now, kids are programming, can set up this computer by themselves, do all the software that is required. But with us, we cannot do that. So you can only get that. They want an IT person to come and create content, a high school content, which should be the opposite, whereby a teacher should be the one creating content and uploading it. So a teacher needs that tech savvy. A teacher needs to be tech savvy. How can the teacher get to be tech savvy? By having this education compulsory in schools, whereby it becomes a compulsory course when you exit school.
That's still a long way coming, because I mean that has not been the case here in Kenya. If I may bring in Mr. Otoa Sifuna, something very important that Gideon has also mentioned in his remarks there. He's talking about the security. I mean, in a scenario where you are with your students online, you know, doing your class, and then we've got hackers today. You know, this issue of cybersecurity is also a big threat, don't you think?
Gideon is quite spot on, and I'm very proud. You know, I taught Gideon just last year, and I'm very happy with the way he's articulating issues. And no wonder Strathmore University will get such a best brains in terms of their science department, informatics, and computer programming.
Sure.
It will go without any iota of doubt, Timothy, that online or technology is very vulnerable to information infiltration and all that.
Yes.
History has it that you are never safe on the online platform.
Sure.
And you have seen when Gideon singles out a case that happens, you are actually teaching, and pornographic materials are brought into your lesson because somebody has hacked.
Sure.
Many times, Timothy, your computer or your iPhone or whatever, you are persistent, you are constantly changing your password to a stronger one and all that. And you never know who is actually even watching our discussion right now, because you are and I remember way back when I was at the university, and there was a lecturer teaching, and some CID officers just came in and arrested him. That can only happen on online platform where you are sure that you are not the sole custodian of your classroom.
All right.
In a physical classroom, you are very sure that nobody is watching.
Yeah.
The teaching and learning process must also happen in a very secure environment.
Sure.
I did mention earlier on, Timothy, that even managing the behavior of students in an online classroom is quite problematic. The student seated at the back could actually be watching something on his or her PC that is very far away from what you want to be covered in that particular 1 hour or 40 minutes.
Definitely.
And therefore, it becomes quite dicey that as a teacher, you do not have control of this particular online. Because technology, like Gideon says, we as Africans, we are just consumers. And that sometimes I ask myself, are we born of a lesser God that we only consume but we do not produce? I think we need to up our game.
I think Mr. Sifuna, we are able to produce. I mean, gone are the days when we thought that Africa would play second fiddle to any other people.
Yeah, but Timothy, yes. Timothy, sincerely speaking, if you look at what we are using, especially in online teaching and learning,
yes.
Ranging from the hardware to the software, a lot of it is imported material. Gideon has just said that
we are coming there. We are coming there, Mr. Sifuna. We are coming there. We've come from
yes,
far.
We've
had
there,
our own homegrown solutions.
The speed at which we are moving, and I want to challenge students such as Gideon, who are right into science,
yes.
Sciences and technology. I come from the arts and literature point of view. Maybe a little bit incapacitated in terms of technological advancement. But,
yes.
but I want to challenge teachers, actually, that there is no scapegoat. There is no reason enough. Whether you are a history teacher, whether you are teaching home science, whether you are teaching agriculture, this is the time to know what technology and online learning is all about. Definitely. It is very unfortunate, Timothy, and I want to reveal few statistics. Quite a number of our teachers in this country are not computer literate. That is the sorry state. There is a teacher in this part of the country that does not even know a word such as Zoom exists. There's a teacher who has no Gmail account.
Yeah.
And you see, when we have such cases, Timothy, it becomes a sorry state.
Indeed.
The students are even becoming much more wiser than the teachers.
Indeed, it's a sorry
so
state.
So it is also a challenge to the so-called analog. Sorry?
Yeah, I'm saying indeed it's a sorry state, and at this juncture I wanted to bring in, for interest of time, I wanted to bring in Bona Gideon at this point. And Bona Gideon, maybe if you could just mention to us, and probably someone is wondering, Gideon is studying a course called Informatics and Computer Science. Computer Science, we have an idea what it is about. What is informatics? What's the informatics bit in this in this course that you're taking?
Informatics is all about manipulating data. It's basically more of information, whereby you manipulate data, computing data. So you will be working with data in that platform, and some of the places where you can get to work are some roles like data analysis. And that's something I really like, because the good thing with data analysis is you will always be in a big company. There's no data. A small company has no data to manipulate, has no data to analyze using a computer. We will always enjoy the luxury of big companies, and it's an upcoming career where most of the people are transiting. Most of the people in technology are really transiting, and it really gives you that exposure. You work, when you manipulate data, it's just about being able to compute data. And that's all about the informatics. But the computer science itself is all about artificial intelligence and software engineering. So software engineering is that where you can interact with laptops, and that's where you can interact with the software bit of the computer. And artificial intelligence is where you can connect devices so that they can communicate with each other using different sensors. We have different sensors. And that's when we have some sessions like STEM. The country has brought in a session like STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. It's a very good club. And when I was back in the M-Pesa Foundation Academy, that's what I was really passionate about. So it's all about data, and it's all about that, manipulating data, using programming, and trying to get solutions. You know, it's a course that gives you a chance to get solutions. And actually, for your information, such platforms like Zoom were created by these tech-savvy people. And if we can have such people in our country, that means we are headed to this online thing that we are talking about. And maybe, Bwana Timothy, before I just leave, there is also one demerit of this online study that we should need to understand.
Sure.
And just to make sure that people get clear that it has more demerits than merits, whereby you will not get a chance to enjoy the resources. You can look at me, I'm really athletic. That shows you how I do exercises. It tells you how sporty I am. And you look at it that I cannot even get a chance. You cannot play a game like volleyball. You cannot get a chance to play alone. You also get that self-discipline where it will give a chance people to masquerade to be angels. And while in real sense, their DNA is satanic. It's made up of thick satanic characters. Whereby you don't know what I've put on down here. Maybe I have a shot.
Yeah,
you don't know that.
We know. And, we have the Zoom suit, a video that has been going online, viral. I watched it yesterday and I was laughing by myself. Some of these situations, people find themselves in these sticky situations. But maybe before we conclude, I would like to start with you, Mr. Otoa Sifuna, in your closing remarks. Maybe just a word or two this time. Parents are really, not sure of what is going to happen. The minister, of course, came out strongly and advised and said by next week, this something they've been working on, and the president will, with the president's blessing, they will be able to communicate with the publics on the way forward in terms of the national examinations. Maybe you can just mention that as we finish in 1 minute, because we are also out of time.
Yeah, Timothy, to the Kenyan parents who are, especially those with candidates, Standard 8 and Form 4, I wish to, first of all, energize their spirit that all is well. I'm a very firm believer in God. Yes. And when I read the Holy Book, Timothy, it tells me that there is no situation that is permanent. In English, the language that I teach, there is a proverb that says that the dark cloud, the dark hour, lies just adjacent to the dawn. So to all the parents, and by extension to all students and guardians, caregivers, and all educational stakeholders, yes, we are going through a very trying moment, but the God in heaven is also seeing this. Sooner or later, the COVID-19 pandemic will be over. Yes. I'm telling you that because I'm a very great optimist.
Yes.
The scientists, the researchers are not sleeping. We will get a solution. God will pardon on people, and will come out of this. So for that, on that note, I want to tell the Kenyan parents and the students themselves is that continue revising very hard. You never know. It is very, very awkward to actually change an academic calendar. I know as a country, we will be in total disarray if we suspended exams. So to me, even as I look at how practical is it to administer exams to students who have lost a lot in terms of content coverage, but I'm also looking at a situation where it is very, very sad to suspend exams. So I'm just saying that if this COVID-19 can last for lack of a better word, just a little time frame, so that if we can actually resume somewhere in May or even June,
yes,
the Kenyan teachers, Mr. Timothy, are very industrious, working lot.
They're able to turn the tables and get the children back on track.
Yes, around, and we can do the exams right on time. So to the parents and to the students, be optimistic,
yes,
be prayerful that this thing will be over and you will come back and we do the exams.
Thank you very much, Bwana Otoa Sifuna. Bwana Gideon, your closing remarks on this in 1 straight minutes as we finish.
I would like to extend my closing remarks to the siblings of these students who are in this all miasma, whereby they should try. There's always that person who is a higher level than the other. As much as the government does not allow tuition, this is a family. As they sit in the family gatherings, let them help their younger ones. Let's not have all of them suffering.
Yes.
Instead, let's sacrifice the very top one, and let him help the others. And let's also sacrifice one, and the others get to benefit. So let's help our siblings back at home. And I would also ask my fellow students to be self-disciplined. And by this I mean to avoid pretense. You know, when you start pretending now, the Swahili adage, I like the Swahili adage that says, tabia ni ngozi. Yeah? So when you start pretending now and masquerading to be an angel, when you are not, you are going to cultivate that character in you, and that's what you will take forward even in the school setup, even in the work institution, and that will not help you. So let's be self-disciplined. Let's switch off our WhatsApps as we study online. Let's WhatsApp messages as we study online. And I would also like to urge parents to be understanding to their students, to the students that when a student tells them I need to read, let them not see it as if they are trying to run away from the chores.
From the chores at home, yeah.
And again, the students should not also take the advantage of running away from some chores, whereby a student wakes up and turns on YouTube and tells the parent, I'm reading.
I'm afraid we'll have to end it there, gentlemen. Thank you very much for your contributions. I'm really glad that you found time actually to join us this morning and also to share your thoughts together with us. I really do appreciate that. Bwana Otoa Sifuna, an educationist here in Nairobi, and also we have Gideon Wafula, an informatics and computer science student at the Strathmore University. Viewer, for comments, suggestions, or opinion, you can send that using our hashtag GBS Morning Extra. Our Twitter handle is, of course, at Kenya GBS. Our SMS line is open always, 21144. 21144 is the number. We do come to the end of this segment, and I do hope that you will have a great day. My name is Timothy Omondi. Bye-bye for now.